this book is about connections. It's about the kinds of coherence there exists between the way things look. The way things look is what photography captures. And photography is an incredibly fascinating and enigmatic language. The reason it is an enigmatic language is that no one completely understands why the look of things, the way things look, can have so much significance and suggest so much to the viewer. I think my series of photographs is about my work and the way I see the world, but it's also about photography, because photography, according to John Berger, quotes the look of the world. It captures the look of the world and it takes it away in a box. And we look at that look and we expect to learn something from it. He said, appearances cohere. And as I was shooting my project, which originally started out to be playing around with a toy camera called a Joko in the kind of slightly quirky, surreal way I always see the world, I started to find a correspondence between some things I was doing in Florence and some things I was doing in France, things that I was doing in New York City, and I realized these photographs work in pairs. No, they work in triptychs. And eventually I realized this is a sequence of 52 photographs. And as with any group of photographs, the way they relate to each other adds up to more than any individual photograph. The fact that it's a toy camera, even though it's much sharper than many toy cameras, it's one of the first digital toy cameras that was made, and that's why I got it, gives it a vignetting and a slightly dreamlike quality. But I think a lot of that comes from my own way of seeing the world, because I tend to see the world, and what interests me about the way the world looks is what little pieces of it look like, things that are not necessarily in the context of what will explain what they are. And in those pieces, is a lot of geometry. So you can go through, some people have said to me they've been going through the book a number of times at different levels, and that they are surprised at how many levels there are, which I'm very pleased about, because I feel that that's true. I hope that that would be true for people. The connections are sometimes visual. A white line that might be the top of a bridge in another, that might be a place where sun is hitting the ground, that may be a clothesline in another. The way that curves, the way that lines, the way that stripes may start flowing through photographs that are either in Jerusalem or Las Vegas or Paris, the south of France, Florence, gives us that connection. But at another level, the connections are cultural. Why does this place call to mind that place? And if it calls to mind that place, is there a connection? Is there a real connection between those things? I think that, I suppose, to put it in one sentence, if we are adrift in the world and we go from one place to another and we feel at home in the world, what is it that's making us feel at home? It's that something here relates to something there. Maybe it's a relationship of tonality. Maybe it's a relationship of a big poster on a wall. Maybe it's a real thing, a quality of light, or a graphic element. But we look at a world, and the world is familiar to us wherever we go. We feel at home in it. And it's the language of how the world looks that makes us feel at home. In this world of ubiquitous photography and photographing that people do with their small, hand-carryable mobile phones, they don't even know why they're taking pictures. It's just a habitual action that they do now. I think that makes it very interesting what people who have taken photography very seriously over the years have felt, and wonder if it is still true for young people today with iPhones photographing everywhere they go. And that is that there is something mysterious about an image that people accept as real, that has some authority of being real. For example, now in the Art Museum, Migrant Mother, Dorothea Lange's very important photograph, and important in the sense that at the time it was taken, it helped FDR get his legislation through for the New Deal, for Social Security, for the Works Progress Administration. Because it was a real person, I am sure that painters could have done many, many paintings of a woman with a starving child, or a very tired, beaten down woman worried for the future of her children. And people would walk by it because it's not a real person. But when they saw a real person, it particularizes it to the extent that it becomes meaningful. And so I think photographs are very powerful things. Photographs for me are very powerful things. And the kind of serendipity of finding the connections that I found standing in front of the Tower of Pisa, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. The connection wasn't that there's two towers. That's obvious. Anybody could see that. It was some strange dance-like movement that caught at one moment in time, seemed to be happening in front of the Tower of Pisa, and some strange movement of a bride's veil that was happening in front of the Eiffel Tower. It goes deeper than just their two towers. But those kinds of things happening became for me a big adventure. For the last few years, I was really, as I say in the book, I was wandering about through appearances and trying to find coherence in them, because for me, finding coherence in them is to find meaning.